Welcome to The Truth Will Not Be Silenced, the show that allows people to be seen, to be heard, and to be human. I'm your host, Melissa Woodfork White. In today's episode, we will talk about education, enhancing parent-teacher relationships for student success with Dr. Natassia Carswell. Sharing our stories allows us to encourage, inspire, motivate, uplift, and help people. There will be a special surprise at the end of the show. Be sure to listen all the way through for the details. Our special guest today is Dr. Natassia Carswell. Dr. Carswell is an award-winning dedicated education professional with more than 28 years in curriculum and instruction in elementary and middle school and college level. She received her bachelor's degree in English from Albany State College, master's in education from Cambridge College in integrated studies, and specialist and doctorate in curriculum and instruction from Argosy University. She is certified in middle grades language arts and social science, gifted teacher support specialist, Torrance test of creative thinking, Edpuzzle Tech integration, and a Google Level 1 educator. During Dr. Carswell's 28 years in education, she led professional developments within the English and gifted departments. Within the walls of her classroom, she used these 65 minutes to make sure students in her classroom were prepared not only for her course, but for life. Yes. Dr. Carswell is going to share with us about education, enhancing parent-teacher relationships for student success. Hi, Dr. Carswell. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me again. I'm looking forward to this discussion today.
Yes. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our first question.
Okay, let me say this right here too, Melissa. I'm now in high school. I am now in high school. So now I can say I have a range. Yes.
All right. So now you're adding high school to your range of over 28 years.
Yes.
As an award-winning dedicated educator.
Yes.
That is awesome, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right. So here's our first question.
Yes.
What are the problems with parent-teacher relationships that prevents a student from being successful, and how has this affected you as an educator? It's a two-part question, so you can start with the first one and end with the latter one.
Let me just jump right into this. One of the problems that I definitely see with parent and teacher communication is the lack of communication. There are so many times that teachers are trying to reach out to parents and vice versa, but we're not getting in touch with one another. Like, I know there are several ways that I try to reach out to my parents just to talk to them. But I recognize one thing that I had to do was do an open house. When my parents are in there meeting me on open house day, I have a sheet of paper. Give me all of your contacts. Give me your cell phone number. Give me your home number. Give me your email address. Give me a relative address that you want me to have. Give me every way I can use to contact you. That way I can communicate with you anything that's happening with your child at the time or your student at the time. Because I know a lot of times that parents feel like, I'm not hearing from the teacher. They're not telling me what's going on with my child. They're not going to step out and reach out to you most of the time. The child will say, well, my mom was wondering, or my dad had a question, but they're talking to the child. They're not coming to you. So it is up to teachers right now to just make sure that we are reaching out to parents and we're making parents feel welcome in this relationship that we have. I'm not only just teaching your child, I'm teaching your child and allowing you open conversations as well that you may have with me. So that's one of the biggest issues that I'm seeing is just a lack of communication, not hearing from parents like I want to hear from them. I'm having to be the one to reach out to them based upon what I hear a student say to me. So I just want parents to definitely feel welcome. Another issue that I see with my parents is expectations. We have different expectations with the students. Like, I want their child to succeed, but parents, all they want to see is a grade. They want their child to have all A's. They don't want B's, C's, D's, definitely not F's, but they want a grade. Well, as for the teacher, my expectation is to make sure that they are ready for the world, the real world, outside of the classroom. So we have a lot of discussion when it comes to grades. Whenever I speak to a parent and they're telling me, my child always used to make A's,
Mm,
Okay, mom, I know, and your child will still make A's. Your child will continue to make A's in my classroom. But mom, my biggest goal for your child is to make sure that he or she is ready once they leave my classroom. So
mhm,
if it means that they make a mistake, they make a mistake. But what I make sure that I do is provide for them feedback
mhm.
because I too want your child to succeed. And I will give them that critical feedback in order for them to do well, so that when they leave my room, not only can they use my skills in social studies, they can also use it in science and math and their CTAE classes and their fine art classes. So I want them to succeed all the way around and not just in my class and not just so they can make an A in my class, but just to make sure they can succeed wherever they go. So that's something else that I have found that we're lacking with parent and teacher communication is just the same. We both want them to succeed, but in just different ways. We just see it differently.
Well, I will have to admit, parent communication at the beginning of my career is totally different towards the latter end of my career. And I have
Okay.
to make the distinguishment because whereas, there was a big emphasis put on what you just said, communicating with the parent, the expectations, and how we want the child to do well. Well, now parent communication to me has turned into a
Mhm.
novelty, just putting it on the sheet saying that we did it,
Yeah.
whether we
Mhm.
actually spoke to the parent or not, or whether the
Mhm.
parent actually responded. And so that is also a problem because of the
Mhm.
simple fact you already noted the major one is being able to contact him and connect them.
Yes.
So we've always dealt with the multiple changes of phone numbers, the multiple numbers of phone numbers. We've
Mhm.
always dealt with that. We've also dealt
Yes.
with, also the emails. Nowadays, people got multiple emails where back in the
Yes.
day you probably had one, maybe two at most,
Exactly.
then having to deal with all of that. I can tell you right now, for me, when I have to make parent phone calls, I'm just hoping that they pick up the phone
Oh wow. Yes. Mhm.
because I'm literally holding the phone and it's ringing, it's ringing. Now
Mhm.
they don't even connect their voicemail.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm like, beginning of my career, voicemail was correct. We can leave a message. They
Yes.
can call us back. Now,
Mhm.
when I make those phone calls, there's no voicemail connected. I'm holding the phone like 1 to 2 minutes,
Mhm.
someone to pick up, and then I have to log that there was no answer, no voicemail to leave a message.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so
Yes.
that to me is also a problem.
Mhm.
So I just think that the emphasis in everything that you said was mostly about, educating the whole child so they can be successful in life, where
Yes.
now it's more like a novelty or a check off the list to say that we did it.
Mhm.
So with parents, it's what you said, it's a two-way street.
Mhm.
I'm going to connect with you, but you also have to connect with me. And then I needed to be sure that the information that you're giving me is up to date so that
Mhm.
I can get you when I need you so that we can teamwork on what's best for your child, my student in the classroom.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's crucial within itself. But my next question for you, Dr. Carswell, is what do you do when you are making those phone calls, when you are making those contacts and you're not getting any response?
Well, what I have learned to do when I don't get a response from a parent, what I've learned to do is I do all the avenues. I make sure that I text them and I copy the text and I save it in a folder. I make sure that I email them and I do the same thing with the email. I put it in a folder after I copy it. When I don't reach a parent, I make sure that I log it. That I, like you said, I contacted them. This is what happened. No response. They didn't. They did not respond to the text. They did not respond to my email. They did not answer my call or respond back to my call. I've learned to just log it because at the end of the school year or end of the semester, right now that I'm in, if something happens to that student and they're failing and a parent wants to come and talk to you and say they never heard back from you, ma'am, I sent you this email on this day, this text on this day. I called you on this day. This isn't this your number? Isn't this your email address, ma'am? Isn't this your cell number? All of these are correct, right? Yes. If they say yes to me, then that means that you probably saw the text. You probably saw the text, the email. You probably even heard my message. I make sure that they understand that I tried to reach out to them. You are avoiding contact with me. A
Mhm.
lot of times when these parents will not answer a phone call that's unknown, and I get that. I'm the same way. I do not answer unknown calls. But if they are able to leave a message, which I always do, I always leave a message, you know that I'm calling out to reach for you, calling you about your student. Please answer it. Please call me back. And I always say, please call me back at this number. I
Mhm.
always leave that before I hang up. So there are avenues that they can definitely use for me. What I'm doing right now, though, now that I'm in high school, there's a graduation coach that we have in our building. And if I can't reach out to a parent, I go straight to him and I say, look, I have been reaching out to this parent for weeks now. And they have not responded to me in any way, call, email, or text. Can you please call them for me? Let them know that I'm reaching out to them. That has been a lifesaver for me because when I talk to him, within minutes, an email. Oh, I saw your email. Sorry, I got busy. Mr. Shad told me to that you've been reaching out to me and you've been trying to get in contact with me. My bad. I'm so sorry. Can we talk now? It's like immediate, immediate. I don't know because they recognize him. They have a relationship with him. So that's why they are answering his call and now they're reaching out to me. But it's you have to make sure that you talk to any person that you can that's going to help you in that building to make sure there's contact made. Yes.
Well, every school organizational structure is different. High school, they have those counselors and so forth, so you have that additional support there. But that
Yes.
K through 8, there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing there for
Mm-hmm.
that. And so
That's
with
what I
that,
recognize too. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so with that being said, would you also say that it is a problem where you're trying to contact a parent before they hear from an administrator about some type of corrective action?
Mm-hmm. So is it difficult to contact a parent?
Because what I have experienced and what I'm still seeing is that when we're calling the parent
Mm-hmm.
to be proactive
Mm-hmm.
and we get no response, no
Yeah.
callback, or I can't leave a message, or none of the numbers are working. I've done
Mm-hmm.
all the documentation. And then when an administrator call, you want to answer. And then
Yes.
it's like you're upset about it. The parent's upset about it because that's the first time they're hearing about it. Well, that's because you didn't respond to the multiple times that you were
Yes.
contacted before an administrator had to talk to you. And so, would you say that that's also a problem because that leaves a negative taste in a lot of parents' mouths if that's the first conversation that they have?
I do think I think that's a huge problem. And not only does it leave a huge taste in the parent's mouth, sometimes it leaves a huge taste in the administrator's mouth because they're like, okay, why am I having to contact this parent? Why am I, what have you done everything you could possibly do, mom? Have you done everything? Yes. I mean, parent, a teacher, I'm sorry.
I got you.
Yes, I've done everything. That's why I'm coming to you because I reached out every way I could possibly reach out. Maybe you would have a better response than I can get at this point. But it also make you look bad in the administrator's eyes when you get that when they have to reach out to that parent. Yeah, parents will get upset about that. They feel like you
They
could
been
have you
slighted,
could have done it. Yeah, and I'm like,
blindsided,
I
all the stuff that they
tried.
like to say.
Mhm.
Like you're only calling me when my child is in
My
trouble.
child is in trouble, exactly. But you only respond when your child's in trouble. I notice that a lot too. You can call with the greatest of intentions, maybe just to say, look, your child's did an amazing job in my class. It's never bad news all the time. Anyway, it's not always bad news. Sometimes it could be the best of news for that parent. But they don't answer that call because they're afraid because of the history. It's
Yeah,
a negative phone call.
that
It's a
is.
negative phone call.
But wouldn't you also say that that's also a problem, Dr. Coswell?
Mhm.
Because throughout the course of my career, what I've seen, I haven't done this. I make sure that I proceed any type of disciplinary action with
Mhm.
a pleasant phone call before. So then it would break that cycle and it would also develop a positive relationship with
Relationship.
that parent. Whereas most teachers do not do that.
Yes.
They don't do that practice. They only call when something is wrong, and that
Mhm.
creates further tension.
It does. It does. That's one of the things that I like to do too. I don't always call.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I would send a
Yeah.
text message and
Mm,
say,
text, yeah.
your student did an amazing job this week. I just want to let you know, mom, dad, that I am so excited about what he did or what she did on her paper, or how they presented their presentation in class. I try to send a quick text and say, oh, I'm so proud of your student. They did a great job. And then parents are like, okay, oh, wow. Then they were like, oh, I think I remember her working on that, or I think I remember him telling me about that. That really does open the door. It does open the door. So when the next time I have a problem with that student and I'm calling or texting and the parent answers, oh, thank you for letting me know. I will make sure that they get this done. That just happened to me recently.
Mm-hmm.
I had a student, first semester, he was in my yearbook class. And I was talking to the parent about how he was not keeping up with the yearbook deadlines, wasn't getting his assignments in on time. And the parent said, okay, I'll make sure I talk to him and he will do it for you, Dr. Carswell. This semester, I have an American Lit doing the exact same thing. The moment I call mom and say, mom, he has not turned in this assignment. Hold on for a minute. So come here. I can hear them in the background. They're talking. Why are we still doing this? Why are you doing? You did this problem with her last semester. Why are you still doing this to her? And I promise you, Dr. Carson, he will have this turned into you tomorrow. And sure enough, it happens. But you're right. It's building that relationship first, letting that parent know that I care about your student as much as you care about your child. I'm there for you, like you're there for him and her. So yes, I feel like that's more important than anything else, is making sure that parents know that you're there for them in good and bad,
Mm-hmm.
in the struggles, in the highlights, you're there for that student. Yes.
Yes. And so a lot of times I think that um, effective teaching and training on how to
Mhm.
develop that communication is needed, especially
Mhm.
if the first contact of a teacher is negative, and then that transcends every grade level to every teacher, because that's how it started off, and we're having to break those cycles. I
Yes.
think that there should be effective teaching and training on communication, not just between coworkers and when you're talking to somebody, but just the initial contact.
Mhm. You know what has happened over the past few years, because I've been teaching for a long time. So when I started
Yes.
teaching, that was just like it was not, I wouldn't say it was mandatory that you contact parents at the beginning of the year, but you were like trained by your teacher mentor to sit down with your list of students, phone numbers, welcome every child by saying, Mom, Dad, looking forward to teaching your child this year. It was something that you just did. Now I'm learning that if it's not mentioned in a faculty meeting during pre-planning, if it's not told to you by the administrator or the counselor or whatever, teachers don't hear it. They haven't made a habit of doing it, so they don't do it.
Yep.
But because we've been taught it such a long time, it's
Yes.
embedded in us. So we know to do it every year. Yeah.
Because I was trained the same way. I started
Mhm.
teaching in 2006. I was
Mhm.
trained the same way. And I think it is comical.
Mhm.
The independent contracts that I worked at, I was an employee, but I worked as an independent contractor. And I thought it was comical that the administrator had to send a script on how to communicate with parents instead of
Yeah.
providing the training on how to
Mhm.
do it. Because when
Mhm.
you give someone information, as you know, Dr. Coswell, that's not the same thing as training them
It's not. It's not.
on how
Mhm.
to do it. All you're
Mhm.
doing is providing a script so that you
Exactly.
don't get the backlash when they call.
And you just never know how many times the script does not follow along as it's written on paper, because something's going to happen in that conversation that changes the way that conversation is going to go. And now what do? Because you did not have the proper training. So what's left for you to do? You got to
And not
close that script. Yeah. And
and
speak
not
from the heart.
oh my gosh, Dr. Coswell, we got to get on to the next question. Now that we have talked about all of the problems with
Mhm.
parent teacher relationships and how it impacts student success, now
Mhm.
we want to talk about what are some of the best ways to enhance parent teacher relationships for student success.
Mm. Um, One thing that I can speak about, something that happened to me recently. I'm going to just give this little story that happened to me recently. I had a student. that was failing me. I mean, horribly. In my honors group, but could not keep up with the pacing, could not keep up with the rigor. I mean, she was just struggling. And I had to reach out to that parent on so many occasions. Mom, dad, she didn't pass this test. She didn't pass this assignment. She didn't turn this assignment in. She told me that she was nervous about it being wrong. So instead of her turning it in, she just did not bother to do it. But I had to develop a relationship with the parent. She was a single parent dealing with three girls in all ages of, I mean, all disciplines, elementary, middle, not high.
Wow.
And so she was going from school to school to school, trying to keep up with everything that was going on. And she told me, she said, I'm so sorry. I was not keeping up with what she was doing in school. I was not keeping up with Infinite Campus to see how her grades were looking. I apologize. That's on me. But when we talked to each other and I told her what I was seeing in class, I was seeing her anxiety. I was seeing her just totally shutting down completely. Whenever the word test came up, I see her eyes get so big, like, oh God, it's a test coming up. I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. After our conversation, though, with the mother, I decided with her what would be best for her tutoring. Bring her early in the morning. We need to tutor her. Mom, dad, mom, at the end of the school day, have her stop by me so I can answer any questions that she may have throughout the day. Like if she forgot about what has gone on, let's do a quick check-in before she jumps on in your car at the end of the day. Have her stop by my room. Once we came up with a plan and she saw that I was working with her mother and her mother was working with me, that if I say it's A and she gets home and her mom says, Dr. Carswell said it was A, she sees that we have the same plan. We speak in the same language, that it began to really help her in so many ways. I saw her grade go from an F to a B. When she left my class at the end of that semester, she was a B student. And she came to me upset because she said, I really want to get an A. I really was trying to get an A in class. I really want that A. But she didn't make the A. But the fact that I saw her going from being this closed up person in a shell to this outward open person expressing her feelings to me and giving me her point of view, I was very happy about that. The mother and I still keep in touch. We still text to this very day. I know she's not in your class anymore, but how you doing? How's your family? How's everything going? How was your holiday? She texted me the other day, asked me how I was doing during the winter break. So we still having that relationship going, even though I don't have her daughter in my class, because she saw that I cared about her daughter and that I wanted her daughter to succeed. And together, we wanted her daughter to succeed. So what can we do to make sure that that happens? So we just make sure that we were on the same page. And that made it.
What you just shared is number one to me. You have to develop those trusting, positive teacher, student, and parent relationships. And that doesn't happen when you make a phone call or send a communication that your child has been disciplined for X, Y, and Z. Half of teaching is unpacking all of the baggage that they bring. And if you're not doing that, how are you going to teach them?
Yes.
And so, I mean, that for me, that's the number one. And at the beginning parts of my career, that was consistent across the boards. At the latter end of my career, these new teachers or these new generation of educators, they don't understand the power of when a child knows that they are cared for and the extent that that child will go for them in that classroom. Half of the problem, Dr. Carswell, is because they don't know the children. They don't want to know the children. They don't want to know their backgrounds. They just want to come in there and teach, and they have no clue that you teaching, they ain't learning, and it ain't their fault.
And you can tell a lot about a child too just by standing at your door as they're entering your classroom. You can tell they're going to have a good day or a terrible day by the way they look coming in your classroom. Like I have stopped a lot of children at my door before they come into my classroom by looking in their eyes and saying, "Oh, come here, come stand right here with me for a few minutes." Oh, okay. What's going on with you? You have this big old spot on your smile on your face. Well, what happened to you today? Oh, the cars where I passed my math test. Oh my God. I mean, you can tell how they're going to respond to you just by standing at your door. And when you pull a child aside because of their face, they're looking depressed or sad, and talk to them, they're like, oh, I just need a moment. Can I go see the counselor? Can I go to the restroom? Can I just wash my face? I mean, they just want someone to recognize them. And when they have been recognized by a teacher, that means the world to them. They know that they're being seen. The thing that most people want in life is just to be seen. Whether it's an adult, adults want to be seen. Children want to be seen. They want to be seen and heard. They want to know that they belong and that they are fitting in and that you recognize them, and so once I have started doing that, I mean, gosh, when I close my door,
Mhm.
kids know that it's time to get to work. It's all about business now
Yeah.
because she dealt with my issue
Mhm.
at the door.
But
She
that's
showed
it.
that she cared at the door.
But that's
Yeah.
it, Dr. Coswell. When you make that connection with the child, that
Mhm.
develops the parent-teacher relationship
It
because
does.
they first learn from their child whether or not that child likes the teacher,
Like the
don't
teacher.
like the teacher, or if the teacher is teaching or if the class is
Exactly.
disruptive. It starts with the child.
That's what the child. It does. Yep. It really
I'm gonna
does.
tell you, Dr. Coswell, I did this independent contractor in a school,
hmm
and every day that the children walked in, they all had frowns on their face.
hmm
And I would tell them that if I'm smiling at you, you're smiling back at me.
hmm
So now when they walked into the school, every time they saw me, they were like, "Good morning, Mrs. White. Good morning, Mrs. White." They were not being greeted that way. And if I
Right.
saw a child come in and they didn't say something, I said, "Come here. What's wrong?" Well, I didn't get enough sleep last night, or I was
hmm
tired. They just want to be seen and heard.
Just want
And
to be
I was
seen.
like, well, I hope that you get some sleep today and that we're
hmm
going to have a great day. And they say, oh, thank you, Mrs.
Yes.
White. It starts
Yes.
out. So, you know what? Before I even met the parents, I had parents sending me messages talking about my child talks about you all the time.
All the time.
My child says that they really like your class. And
hmm
because that's
hmm
how it starts. I haven't
Yes.
even met all the parents yet.
Yes.
That's how
Yes.
it starts, Dr. Carswell. It starts with a
Yes.
child.
It does. It really does. Yep.
Well, Dr. Carswell,
hmm
our last question. Well, second to last question. How does sharing your story today help others? Tell about your current and future plans. We really appreciate you identifying the most common problems with parent-teachers relationship and also giving us the number one way that we can develop, enhance those parent-teachers relationships. So how does sharing your story today help others?
Well, I hope that by me sharing my story today, that someone out there who's an educator will recognize the importance of building those relationships, the importance of making sure that parents understand that you care about their child succeeding. That's the importance of making sure that parents understand and that the students understand that it's all about support, success, growth. It's all about fostering that growth in that student. And I feel like if anyone out there is listening to me and the source that I've said to them, they've learned something, a strategy that I've used. They've learned a story that they may also relate to or have relations with, that they can also pull back. I know what I have done. Being that I've taught so long, I've had to really think about all the things that I used to do that I don't do anymore, that I may need to grab again out of my bag and start using it once more. Because sometimes locations don't actually allow you to do the same things you used to do at another school. So you have to put that in a bag and close it up. And
Mhm.
then when you get somewhere else, you're like, oh gosh, I remember that. Go find that bag, open it up, and take it back out again and start using it.
Mhm.
So I just hope that whatever someone has heard me say today, they can say, okay, I remember I used to do that. I tried that before. Let me do that again. I remember it used to work, but it didn't work, or whatever the case may be. They can modify it in any way that they can possibly modify it to
Mhm.
make it work for them now.
Mhm.
The thing that I've been really trying my very best to do, I am a new teacher in high school, but I'm not new to education.
Right.
So I have a lot of new people with me in my department that always come to me for advice or they
Because
have
of
questions
your
and need
years of
my
education.
expertise. Yeah, we're like, am I an expert? Am I really an expert? But they
Yes.
want to come to me a lot for things. So I always try to tell them that the same thing, you have to call home. Have you contacted mom or dad? Have you reached out to mom and dad? If this student is absent and they've been absent for 3, 4 days, have you reached out to mom or dad? They may not even know that their child is absent. They may think that their child actually went to school and they're not aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing you need to do is call home or email or text. But parents need to know that you are aware that their child is absent and
Right.
has been 3 or 4 days. So call mom, call dad, open the door to this relationship by saying, hi, I haven't seen Johnny in 4 days. Is he okay? Is he sick? Will I be seeing him soon? Is he on vacation? Can you let me know what is happening to him? If a teacher, a parent recognizes that you are concerned about their child, oh, I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry, Dr. Carswell. I intended to email you. I forgot to do it. I intended to reach out to you. I forgot to send the, whatever the case may be. When they see that, then they're going to come with all kind of excuses and reasons why, but they're going to answer you because they're like, oh, you noticed it. You noticed that my child has been sick. So I try to make sure that my coworkers know you coming to me. Thank you for coming to me and asking me what to do, but you already know what to do.
Yeah.
You're a parent. You are a parent yourself.
Well,
You know
thank
what you
you.
want a teacher to do for you.
Yes.
So
Oswald, we're gonna have to wrap this up. I thank you for that. The two takeaways was one, making sure that you develop a positive relationship with the child, and two, make sure that first communication with the parent is a positive communication before
yes,
it's before a negative communication.
yes,
So with
yes,
that said, Dr. Carswell, we're gonna go have to wrap this up. I'll be
yes,
sure to drop your links and stuff with your
mhm,
episode, but thank you so much for joining us.
yes. Thank you for having me again. Yes.
Welcome. Next week, we'll continue to discuss and share about real life experiences, both personal and professional, stories that need to be shared, seen, and heard that makes us human. The truth will not be silenced, to be seen, to be heard, to be human. The surprise, if you like to leave a positive comment about our show, you will get a shout out. This includes businesses, products, services, organizations, and events. Following the link in our show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you and help support our podcast. Buzzsprout is the best way to launch a professional podcast. Want to ask a question, be a guest, or subscribe to this podcast? The truth will not be silenced. Click on the show link. Thank you so much for joining us.